Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the DEFCON Warning System Digest. I am Tom Lonelywolf, the director of the DEFCON Warning System, and today we are joined by DEFCON staff member Billy Auger. Please tell me I pronounced that name right. Did I pronounce that name right?
Yeah, you did.
I'm always worried about slaughtering that name. So this time we are going to be answering your questions. We do this every year in our annual Ask Me Anything. Now, you can come on our community forum and ask us anything there. We may or may not answer it depending on what the question is, but here we are going to do our best to answer every question that you asked us within, reason. I am greatly disappointed that nobody asked a Battlestar Galactica question. I may answer one anyway, just because, but... we got a lot of questions we're going to go through. Some of them are very relevant, and some of them are a little off the wall. But we're going to be answering them. We're going to be answering all of them because this is Ask Me Anything. Before we begin, Billy, is there anything you want to say? Any prayers you want to offer?
Well, I read a couple of the questions in advance, but I can't remember all of them, so I'm probably going to get some shocks from some of them. So, I don't know. Let's hope for the best, eh?
The way I generally do this is I don't read the questions beforehand. I like to answer these questions off the cuff, so you're getting my honest answer, which kind of means sometimes I may not have complete information, or I may be giving my own opinion as opposed to the DEFCON Warning System's official opinion. So the opinions expressed may not necessarily represent those of the DEFCON Warning System, blah, 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 blah. But in this time, I actually did research a couple of them because some of them I've never heard of before, or some of them required an answer that I didn't know off the top of my head. So I did research some of them, but a lot of them I purposely did skip over. I did not research them because I wanted everybody to get my honest, unrehearsed answer, because those tend to be more truthful than somebody who sat down and thought about it and then parsed their answer, to make it politically correct, or this is what they have to say. So what you're getting is what I want to say, not necessarily what I have to say. So that's a good thing or a bad thing. We'll see how all this turns out in editing. Okay?
Yeah, sounds good to me. Let's go.
Okay. First question is a big one. The first question is, tell us about the Great Schism. That is when a lot of the DEFCON Warning System staff broke off and formed their own intel community. So what happened back then was Ryan Baronclaw was the deputy director, and he was unhappy with the direction that we were going. We were then, like we were today, we focused solely on the threat of nuclear war, and he wanted to branch into general OS intelligence, where we'd report on military maneuvers of different countries and things like that. Country X moved their military here, and these two countries got into a little clash over there. Have anything to do with nuclear war, and that wasn't a direction I didn't want to go, because there's a lot of people who were doing stuff like that. We would have just been another voice in the crowd, and what we were doing with DEFCON is what is unique. Nobody does what we do. Nobody was doing back then what we do, and even today, nobody does what we do today. So we are,
well, at least not effectively.
Not effectively. Okay, yeah. There's another group or two out there who report on nuclear war, but in honesty, actually, nobody focuses solely on nuclear war. So I think the group that you're thinking of, who I won't mention because I don't want to give them any publicity, is they branched off into just general conflicts now, even though they still use nuclear terminology.
Oh, the headache they give us.
We're not to go off on a tangent, but we're going to go off on a tangent. Because they use this terminology, people misunderstand what they're saying, and so they cause a lot of panic. And we're always having to go in there and calm people down and tell them what's really going on, as opposed to this clickbait stuff that they do. Fortunately, they have a very small audience, so that's why I'm not mentioning them. I'm not going to go too deep into them because no one seems to care. I guess people have kind of figured out who they are and don't really care about them. So okay, going back to the question. So another thing was and I guess I'm speaking a little out of turn because I don't know what he was what he thinks. I only know what he said to me and to other people. So maybe this is a question that you can ask him if you can find him. But one of the complaints that he made was that I wasn't taking the job seriously. Back then we used to be on TeamSpeak. This was before Discord, and I wasn't there very often. I kind of thought it was just when I was there, it was very just general chatty. It really didn't focus on nuclear stuff. They did talk about military stuff, but also diversion to other things, and I really didn't think it was very productive. I really didn't want to be there. Plus, I was also on HughesNet at the time because I live in a very rural part of the country, and we don't have real internet out here. Billy Auger, who lives in a very built-up place.
I can testify to that.
It's England, and they just don't have very good internet there either. So the poor guy.
I upload this video at my college. My internet just can't do it.
Yeah, it's going to take him hours to upload, a gigabyte of video just because his internet's so terrible. But anyway, so I'm on HughesNet, and they are an absolutely terrible company who provide really terrible service. So I was getting ping times of 12 seconds when I'm in these TeamSpeak channels. So when somebody talks, it takes me 12 seconds before I hear them, and then when I respond, it takes 12 seconds for them to hear me. So there's a gap of 24 seconds between the time they say something and they get a response from me, and it just wasn't working. So I really didn't participate in those live channels. So that was something else that he didn't like. And I guess the last straw was that we were supposed to have a meeting on TeamSpeak, and I'm an on-call firefighter, and I got called out to an emergency. And so I didn't make the meeting, and he just got really upset at that. And the next day is when he quit. And what happened was he took over. He stole our Twitter channel. He wiped out a bunch of data from our servers, and it was a gigantic mess. The sheriff got involved. The FBI has a report on it because it really was industrial sabotage. It was an internet crime and things like that. And nothing ever came of it. We never filed a formal complaint with the sheriff, but so he split off and took a lot of the crew with him. I don't know what he said to them. The only person who even mentioned it was the moderator at the time, who was really nice about it, and who just said we just went in different directions at the time. So he created his own intel group called Strategic Sentinel, and they're defunct now. They've been defunct for a couple of years, and I kind of don't know what happened to Ryan after that. We obviously lost contact with each other, which is a pity. I really liked the guy. We were friends. We used to send each other Christmas presents and things like that. I knew he was getting his pilot's license. I understand that he is maybe an instructor now. I don't know. I haven't followed him around or stalked him or anything like that. So I don't know what happened to him. But so I miss his friendship. I really do. I consider what happened a moment of great immaturity. That's kind of like the word that I used when he sent me a letter saying, kind of apologizing for what happened, and that's kind of how I phrase it. It's sorry it happened. Let's just consider it a moment of great immaturity, because he was kind of a young guy. But he was very mature, and at least up until that moment, he was very mature in how he handled his responsibilities at DEFCON. So that's what was behind the great schism. So we went through a period of not having very much staff, and then we eventually built it up again. And now we have the staff. Now Eric Wasson is the deputy director, Billy Auger, staff member. We had a couple other staff members who life just life interferes. Life gets in the way. You can't. DEFCON can take a lot of your time, especially when there's a crisis, and it kind of can take over your life a little bit. So people come and people go. It's just the natural ebb and flow of life. So I've never actually told this story to anybody. I've kept a lot of it private because I didn't want to air dirty laundry and things like that, and just let people have their own opinions. So this is actually the first time I ever talked about what happened during that time. So this is actually news to Billy Auger. He's never actually heard this story before, and neither has any of the other staff members. So if they're watching this,
I'll admit I did do some research on this, and I did know a little bit about this, but I didn't know the whole story. So thank you for filling me in, Tom.
Oh, I'm kind of curious. I actually don't know what's out there other than the whining that people say. I know there's this one OS Intel guy who really, really hates us. And I'll actually get to him in another question because it's kind of funny. But so I kind of don't know what's out there, so I'm kind of curious to know what you came across. But I don't want to I don't want to drag this question out because we got other questions to go to. So anything quick you want to say about it?
Well, there's stuff out there, on the internet. You can find it if you search hard enough. There's forum posts.
Oh, nah. All right. I'm not going to search too hard about that. Okay. Next question. What is the chain I see you wearing every video? So I guess you can't kind of see it now. It's this. It's a Mizpah coin. It's what couples wear. One, each couple has a different half of it. It's a quote from Genesis 31:49. The Lord watched between me and thee while we were absent one from another. So I have one. My wife has one. If you notice, I don't wear a wedding ring. My dad never wore one. So that's just something I never got into, but I wear this all the time. This is my wedding ring. My wife gets very upset when I don't wear it, and the only time I don't wear it is I wear it all the time actually. But once in a while I have to take it off for something, and if I forget to put it on, she gets very upset. So this is my wedding ring. That's what I wear. So that's that little chain that you see kind of peeking out from my shirt every once in a while. So cute little couple story. Let's see. Okay, moving on. We're going to go for another big one. God, these are just horrible questions. We're starting off with such horrible questions. Why does the OS intelligent community hate you so much? I love that phrasing. You just dig right down to it. So, Bill, should I answer that question? Should I give my opinion on that first, or do you want to take it first?
Well, I've done a lot of outreach with the OSINT community, but you're more than welcome to take a stab at it first.
Okay, so this is just I've never done a poll. I know kind of what they say and things like that. So we're kind of an outlier. One of the reasons I think that we're hated so much is professional jealousy. We have a very, very large following. We have the ability to literally affect the world. We are followed by militaries. We're followed by government. And if we were to come out and say DEFCON 2 or God forbid DEFCON 1, we literally could send the world into a panic. And I guess they kind of, for one thing, they don't like the fact that they don't have that kind of influence and we do. They also don't like the fact that we have that kind of power. And that is a lot of power. It's kind of scary, and maybe they don't think that civilians should have that kind of power. That should be regulated to the government. Who are we to be saying, we're close to nuclear war? That's the government's job. And the government, frankly, is not going to tell you.
Keep the panic at the low sweat stage.
So that's why we're here. That's why I think they don't like us. They don't like that we have the influence. They don't like that we have the power. They say that that we're wrong a lot with our DEFCON levels, but they don't understand how the DEFCON levels work. We're a measure of how close we are, or the chances of nuclear war, and those levels will go up and down depending on what's happening. They seem to interpret that as an unreversible countdown, that if we go to 4 and we go to 3, we must go to 2, we must go to 1, and therefore if we've gone to 4 or gone to 3, we're saying we're heading to nuclear war, doomsday, doomsday, doomsday. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that things are happening, could take a step in this direction if things don't change direction, or this is something that the public needs to be more aware of, and they don't understand what DEFCON is about. They don't understand our levels, and it's just I think all this just circles around the whole professional jealousy thing, if I can even use the term professional, because some of these accounts really aren't professional. Some of them are, but they don't conduct themselves in a professional manner, or some of them are professional. They are professionals.
If I could add something on this,
I've done please a lot
of outreach with them. So I'm Billy Orger. I manage the Discord server for DEFCON, and a lot of open source intelligence communities have Discord servers. So I do a lot of outreach with them, and I've done outreach with a wide variety of Discord servers, and the manner in which they conduct themselves in some of them is appalling. I don't want to name. Well, I can name names if you'd like, Tom. No, I'm not going to name names. But some of them, their staff were downright abusive. That they joined the DEFCON server and they said disgusting things. Some of them made awful comments about members of the staff, called us transphobes and racists and that. That's the majority of the open source intelligence community. That's their staff saying that. A lot of these people, it's just so sad. It really is. But there are a few gems. There are some gems out there, which they're really nice to work with. I share sources with them and stuff. Like I might link them to an article on something that's relevant to what they're doing. And yeah, I have a good relationship with some of them.
Well, go ahead and name them. If they're good and professional, name them.
News.
Who? I'm sorry. I talked over you. So let me stop talking and, and let me stop interrupting you. Let me stop being rude and go ahead and name these people who people who follow DEFCON warning system should follow these people as well.
Yeah, so Phytux News, I'd recommend following them. They are really nice. There's a couple of people who run it, BAM and Phytux. I mainly communicate with BAM because they manage the Discord server. They are lovely. Their staff team is a joy to work with. Especially Maple Spook. There's a shout out for you. Yeah, but I think a lot of the reasons some of these other communities, not Phytux, are downright horrible is because they just see the title DEFCON and then they look it up on Wikipedia and they say, oh, that's a nuclear level, they're claiming to be from the US government. And we're like, no, read the disclaimer, read the site. But a lot of these people, they get their news so quickly, they just read the surface or the title and then they say, all right, that's that, I know what's happening. I think if they just spent the time to sit down with me and talk things out, they would be just as lovely as Phytux, but they don't, and so they're not lovely.
Well, you know, what can you say? You know, again, I think it just comes down to that professional jealousy. You know, I wish we had what they had. You know, I wish we had the followers they had. That's what they're thinking. You know, because what we do, we have a worldwide reach, but we only send out like, you know, a couple of tweets a week, while these OS int communities, you know, they send out tweets every couple minutes, hours, you know, and that's how they get their followers. They're tweet spammers, and they're clickbaiters. They send out, you know, tweets that really have no importance whatsoever, and so that's how they get their followers. People follow us because we have information that they feel they need, while they get their followers by, you know, just they get their followers because it's just, you know, trivia information, and people like trivia and stuff like that. So I don't know, maybe this should have...
Yeah, like there has been artillery barrage in this part of Ukraine 10 minutes ago. It's like, yeah, but I mean, it was one mortar shell, and like, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, and people do click follow on stuff like that because they're hoping that there's going to be more information that comes, and then they forget about the account and it kind of disappears or starts clogging up their feed or something like that. So, you know, it's just it's like I said, it's clickbait, and that's how people get followers. It's clickbait. So that's how they get their followers. While us, you know, we don't have to do that. The tweets we send out are very relevant. They're very important. They're something that we feel the audience, needs to hear and read and know about. So that's why we're able to have the number of followers that we have, even though we tweet out very, very rarely. And, you know, so someone once said that, you know, nothing's more frightening than an active DEFCON Twitter feed, or is it X feed now? I don't know. That was a stupid name. Elon Musk should change it back to Twitter. But so that's kind of, you know, again, professional jealousy. I'm just going to keep going back. I think that's the reason, professional jealousy. Okay, moving on. Moving on to the next question. Okay, a lighter one. A heavier one. Okay, what do you think about people who say we should be at DEFCON 2? Because, you know, whenever we give out reports and things like that, or monthly reports or something like that, they say, you know, we say, you know, our current level is DEFCON 5. They say, you know, we should be at DEFCON 2. You guys really don't know what you're talking about. You should be at DEFCON 2. You know, so what do you think about those people? Everybody has their own personal DEFCON level. If you think we should be at DEFCON 2, you should be getting your bunker ready. So if you're screaming at us saying you're wrong, we're at DEFCON 2, why aren't you in your bunker? We're that close to nuclear war. You should be at the store doing your last minute run. You should be pulling all your supplies into your bunker, getting your family together. If we're at DEFCON 2, things are really, really bad. So why are people who are saying we should be at DEFCON 2 don't really believe that for the most part, because they wouldn't be on the internet saying we should be at DEFCON 2. They should be in their bunkers. So that's what I think about it. I think it's a lot of knee-jerk nonsense that, they should be on conspiracy websites. And I don't see, maybe that was kind of a rude thing to say, because there are people who really are concerned about what's going on. But if you're throwing around DEFCON 2, we're going to be at DEFCON 1 in 3 days or something like that, just because Biden made an offhand comment about the president of Mexico. Come on, guys, try and be at least somewhat reasonable. Billy, what do you think?
I mean, I agree with you. There are some people. I think a lot of it stems back to the other website, which will remain nameless. But some of it is just Twitter trolls, I think. But some of it, if you genuinely feel like that, then I would say there's no need to be. Look at the evidence, just because, yes, it's horrible that there's so many conflicts going on in the world right now, and the world is a tense place, but that doesn't mean nuclear war's imminent. It's not. It's fine, at least at time of recording.
Yeah. Who knows? Tomorrow the missiles may be flying.
Yeah.
Kidding! Oh my gosh! Now I'm going to get the DEFCON 2 people. No, no. So, all right. So I tell you, we could have an entire discussion on,
This is a digest in and of itself,
Okay. Next question. What do you do besides DEFCON? Billy, what do you do besides DEFCON warning system? You do not live on DEFCON warning system. What do you do?
All my life is just DEFCON. No, I live on a farm in the middle of nowhere in rural England, as I think we discussed earlier. I go to college. Well, I'm doing college again for this is the second time I'm having a go at the A levels, and I hope to study nuclear engineering or engineering, and then work my way into the nuclear sector. I'm just fascinated with nuclear stuff, so that's what I do.
Didn't you once mention that you wanted to you work for the United Nations?
Oh, well, yeah, sure, way down the line, like once I've got a few years of experience under my belt, although they say, every plan is destined to fail when meeting the enemy or something, so who knows. I'd love to work for the IAEA. It's a lovely, lovely, lovely job, lovely organization. But I think realistically I'll have to work in the UK power sector for a while before that is even possible. I'd love, if I even get there, I'd love to.
Are you sure you want to work for the IAEA? I mean, they may send you to Ukraine. You could babysitting that.
Lovely stuff. No, they do lovely stuff, and it'd be an honor to work with such a prestigious organization. The data coming out of the IAEA, it's just phenomenal. They do amazing work. They've got amazing equipment, amazing people. They've done amazing work with Zaporizhia. Oh, really good work with that. I'd love to work for them. Oh, and the pay's pretty good.
So it's kind of interesting. Yeah. See, just because I work for DEFCON, people just automatically assume I understand nuclear engineering and stuff like that. I don't. I understand fallout and I understand radiation. Not as much as Billy does. But I know enough to give warnings and stuff like that. But I don't know the nitty gritty detail. I can barely tell you the difference between a quark and and dark matter or stuff like that. And the stuff that comes out of the IAEA that just made Billy drool is stuff that just flies right over my head. Bill, he posted something nuclear engineering related on the forums one day, and I responded saying, those are a whole lot of words in a single sentence I don't understand, because the stuff is just goes right over my head a lot of the times. I don't understand this.
Oh no, it's a lot to take on board. No, and I'm by no stretch of the imagination an expert. There are some proper experts out there. I know just enough to get by. I can read a technical document and just about understand it, parts of it. But mad respect to the people who are experts, though. They put in so much time and effort, and I would love to become one of them one day.
Well, when you get your A levels, you'll be able to understand it.
Yeah, no, I want to get my university degree. Yeah, eventually.
So what I do besides DEFCON, I play video games to do away with the stress. I also do some writing. I do a lot of science fiction writing. I'm actually involved in a fan group called the Doctor Who Audio Dramas. We've been making these audio dramas about Doctor Who since 1982. So we've been doing this 40 years. We are the longest running continuous production of Doctor Who in the world. We even beat out the BBC because they quit in 1987 and they didn't pick it back up for years later. So, while they just celebrated their 50th anniversary, it was a broken anniversary. It's not a continuous anniversary. We've been going for 40 straight years. We've had 6 doctors or 7 doctors, and we have over 200 stories. So dwad.net, if you're interested in that. We're still making stories. We got a new one about to come out. I also do some professional writing. Tiger's Quest is the current series that I'm working on. I do it under a pen name called Lord Stephen. There's 4 books out now. There are also audio dramas. So if you're interested in looking at those, feel free to go to the website. Any money that I get from the sale of these audio dramas or books is donated to charity. I don't keep any of that. That's a promise I made to God. Any money I make from my writing goes to Him. So I don't keep any of that. So feel free to buy that stuff, buy the CDs. Or we don't do CDs anymore. We do Audible. You download the MP3s, buy the books, and you can know that the money that you spent, the royalties I get, it goes straight to charity. So that's what I do. Plus, like I mentioned earlier, I'm an on-call firefighter. That takes a lot of my time. After this, I got a class I have to go to. So my day is very full, very full. So it'd be interesting if we had the rest of the staff here. I'd be interesting to talk to Eric. He does a lot of interesting stuff with radio and security and things like that. So, okay, another big question. What happened during the Alaska incident? We get that question an awful lot. So it's time that we finally answered that. Actually, the answer's always been out there. We never deleted the posts we made about the Alaska incident. It's still on the website. It's still on the forums. So all you had to do is just go and look. But for those of you who don't know, many years ago, again, when Ryan Barenclaw was with the DEFCON warning system, he reported receiving radio messages that appeared to be a conflict between U.S. and Russian fighters. They weren't broadcasting training codes or drill codes or anything like that. So it came across as what appeared to be a real incident, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. Now, I did not hear these radio communications myself. I was listening to Ryan, who was listening to the radio traffic. I could hear some of it in the background. So when you go and look over some of these posts from back then, you'll see me say, I heard these radio conversations myself. And what I mean by that is I was hearing Ryan hear them in the background. So I'm hearing bits and pieces of it, but he's the one who is reporting to me. That's my email chime. I just got a new email. So he was reporting to me what he was hearing, because I was only hearing little snippets, but he was telling me what was going on. And because we couldn't figure out what was going on, we upped the DEFCON level, because what was going on was very serious. We were hearing reports of fighter craft engagements. We actually heard reports of missile attacks on structures, and that was the Alaska incident that people are talking about, because one of the structures that was supposedly attacked was in Alaska. But we couldn't find any confirmation of what was going on. Nobody else was reporting this. We couldn't hear traffic on other channels. So in an abundance of caution, we took the DEFCON level up until we can straighten it out. Just because it was unfolding so fast, we didn't want to get caught behind and be too late when something more serious can happen. So we eventually went up to DEFCON level 3, because it was just so confusing. And then again, this happened the next night. So again, we couldn't confirm what was going on. We couldn't. But again, it just sounds so real. There were no training codes, no drill codes or anything like that. So we just kind of didn't know what was going on. So that's what the Alaska incident was about. So now let me tell you this story that I tried to tell you 2 other times with regard to this other OS int account. So, like I said, he claims to be a news reporter, and he was very proud of his association with Ryan Berenclaw, and he constantly criticized us about this Alaska incident. But unknown to him, because I never told this part of the story before. I always talked about receiving radio communications and things like that, but I never said who was getting the information. It was always I always spoke in terms of DEFCON, because everything we do at DEFCON is always DEFCON. It's never one individual, because I don't want one person to get to feel overburdened about if something happens, and I also don't want one person to get the blame when something goes wrong. That way, if something does go wrong, if a mistake is made, it's always DEFCON who makes the mistake, and not one person who gets the blame for it, and the rest of us go scot-free. So, while I have talked about the Alaska incident, I never mentioned that Ryan Berenclaw was the one who was bringing the information in. It wasn't me. It wasn't the other staff members. It was all coming through Ryan Berenclaw. And this OS Int account, who was very proud of being associated with Ryan Berenclaw and was very critical of DEFCON warning system during this Alaska incident, didn't know that it was Ryan Berenclaw who was the one who was behind the Alaska incident. So now, this has got to be very embarrassing to him, because of him being so proud of being aligned with Ryan and being so critical and so hateful of DEFCON for the Alaska incident, not knowing that he aligned himself with the guy who was behind the Alaska incident. So that's really all kind of really funny to me. But like I said, I never publicly mentioned that, because I didn't want to say it was Ryan who was behind all this and not me, because I wanted to say, this is DEFCON. We're gonna take, if it was wrong, we're gonna take the rap for it. If it was right, we're gonna say we were all behind this, and it's not just one person. But now the question is out there: what happened during the Alaska? That's what happened during the Alaska incident. That's who was bringing the information to us. And that's the story. That's the story behind it. So I never actually told. Again, this is something else I never talked to the staff about, other than broad terms, DEFCON, Alaska. I never mentioned that Ryan was the one who was behind all this. And I'm not saying this to make Ryan out to be a bad guy. He heard what he heard, and he reacted the way he should have. He thought it was real. We understood it was real. We heard no signs that it wasn't real. We couldn't understand why we weren't getting confirmation, but we had to take the precautions. So I think Ryan acted in the way that he should have, how the system was designed to react to incidents that we had to take the gamble that it could have been something that was actually happening. We had to get the warning out there. So now that you've heard the entire story, do you any thoughts on that? Do you think we might have overreacted? Should we have held that information back from the?
Well, I don't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't receiving the intelligence, and I don't know how I would react to that.
That's an honest answer. So I guess if anybody else has any questions about this, or wants to talk about it more, our forums are always open. There's anything.
Link on screen now.
Click on the screen now. Yeah. So okay, question: why isn't Discord more supported instead of the old-fashioned message board? So we have a Discord. It is used. I don't use it personally. The reason I don't use it is because it's difficult to follow threads there. I know Discord's gotten better about threading conversations, but it's really difficult to follow. The board, we can break things up into threads. It's more controllable and things like that, and it's just easier to use from my perspective. So why we still go with the old-fashioned message board, even though a lot of people are moving more into Discord. If Discord was more threaded, it was more easier to use, then I might think more about using Discord. Plus, also, to be honest, and when it comes down to it, Discord doesn't allow advertising, and we use advertising to support DEFCON warning system. This stuff costs this stuff costs money to run. So we have advertising on our board and on our community forum. Thank you for those who visit our community forum with their ad blockers turned off. That helps pay for the DEFCON warning system. So that's another reason why we don't do Discord. We don't have the ability to make any revenue off of it. So that's kind of why I stay off of it. And another reason is also, the chat function. I kind of shied away from that during the TeamSpeak days. I still kind of don't like doing it because it just breaks down into boring conversations that I got other things I got to do. I got video games to play, so that's the reason. That's why I stay off of Discord. That's why it's not really supported. Even though we do have people who are dedicated to moderating it and controlling it, and it is a resource that we do use. So don't think that it isn't abandoned, when we do use it as a backup source when the community forums go down. So those of you who are more inclined to use Discord, feel free to use Discord. We're not going to stop. We're not going to abandon it. It still is going to be used. And like I said, if Discord does move into being able to thread the conversations better and allow advertising, we may consider moving over to Discord. Billy, you're more. Notice I just talk and don't take breaths. I don't give Billy a chance to say anything. So
So yeah, Discord is a great platform. Is you'd have to spend loads of money on hosting our own server because Discord does it for free. Thank you. They're introducing these kind of subscription features. I don't know how it's going to go in the future. Maybe they'll go down the route we want them to, but hey, who knows?
Yeah. So I like Discord. I like that it's free. If we do use it, I'd pay for it, just because they deserve the money. But right now, it's not feasible for us to use it in the manner that we use the community forum. So next question: what is the terminal airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? Billy, you're the engineer. Take it.
African or European?
My understanding, after deep research and contacting some of the Nobel Prize-winning physics professors that we have in contact with at the DEFCON warning system, it is 20.1 miles per hour. That is scientifically concluded. I thought most everybody knew this. Next thing you know, people will be asking us for the meaning of life.
Yes, that's been peer-reviewed, that one. Yeah.
I thought everybody knew it was 20.1 miles per hour. I tell you, the education level of the American school system is really appalling. It is just appalling. So, okay, Billy, this is more a question for you. I'll chime in after you explain this. But what can we expect with respect to EMP effects?
EMP now, that's a pretty broad topic. Now, there's a lot of people who think it's theoretical. It's not it's a theory, but in the same way that the Big Bang is a theory, we know it most likely happened. But we've got empirical evidence to show that EMP is a real thing, and it will happen if you have a nuclear explosion. So if you had a nuclear explosion, say a 400 kiloton weapon in the upper atmosphere, it's mainly fission or something, then you're going to get a huge gamma ray burst be given off by that, a huge amount of gamma just given off really quickly, and that's going to strike atoms in the atmosphere, and it's going to ionize them, so it's going to cause the electrons to fly off at huge speeds, near the speed of light, a good fraction of it. And these electrons, they're going to be guided by the Earth's magnetic field into a huge kind of area. So, I mean, theoretically, a single nuclear device, if you detonate in the upper atmosphere, could, take out the electricity grid for a large chunk of the United States. Yeah, scary, I know. So it happens in 3 stages. There's E1, E2, and E3. E1 is the electrons coming down. Now, these electrons, because they're charged, they give off an electric field. And this electric field can be, pretty strong, up to, 50,000 volts a meter, but it depends on the weapons, and I'm not going to get into that because the data isn't brilliant. We don't know exactly what the weapons are going to be like. But yeah, no, you can get pretty strong electric fields. And if you've got a circuit, like in a phone or in virtually every piece of tech in the modern world, Well, I mean, that's going to cause some real damage. If you're having random voltages occur in capacitors and processors, that could potentially fry a piece of electronics. Now, we then get on to E2, which is a bit like lightning strikes, and you don't really have to worry about it. It's not a big one. Big one is E1 and then E3. Now, E3 is what wipes out your power grid, because there's thousands of miles of wire hanging about the power grid. It kind of, I don't want to say soaks up, but it kind of conducts the electricity, the electric field. And it can actually blow transformers, destroy substations. So this happens over a few tens of seconds. And it just wipes out your power grid. Now, you're probably wondering, will my car start and will my phone work after a nuclear explosion? Because that's what I'd be asking. And the answer is, on the car, it's interesting because you've got a big block of metal. So it can kind of conduct the electric field around the outside the car, because it acts as a Faraday cage, which protects the electronics inside. Now, I don't know on every vehicle if something's a perfect Faraday cage. I mean, it's not going to be perfect, obviously, but like if you've got a carbon fiber chassis, then perhaps it won't work, or who knows. So, and if you've got like a brand new Tesla or something, I can't guarantee that the circuitry is still going to work. But if you've got I say relatively old car, like, not like a brand new spanking Tesla, then it should work. It probably would work. I can't guarantee it would, but it probably would, because the circuitry should be protected by the Faraday cage. Now, your mobile phone, for example, or other sensitive electronic equipment, you probably want to wrap that, put it in a Faraday cage, a proper one. Now, if you're doing an impromptu Faraday cage because you haven't prepared, then you can get some aluminium foil, get some paper, wrap it around your device, or another non-conductive material, like plastic or something. Wrap it in that, and then wrap it in foil, metal foil, like tin foil that you've got at home, or aluminium foil. Wrap it around that, and it should, fingers crossed, protect it from the EMP. Ideally, you would ground it, but if you haven't got tons of time, then hey, do your best. And another important thing for all you radio hams out there: disconnect your antennas. That's so important. I'm going to say it again: disconnect the antenna. If you have an antenna out there, that's a huge conductor. You're guaranteeing that your radio equipment is going to get fried. I don't care how much, if you've got protective multiple earths on it, it's getting fried. So disconnect your antenna and do your best. Try and shield your sensitive stuff in a Faraday cage. God, I may have missed something, so I apologise if I do. Go and read up on it. It's really interesting. You'll love it. Tom, anything to add?
Well, when it comes to the cars, wouldn't the cars be protected by their tires? 'Cause technically, they're not touching the ground.
I'm glad you asked that. No, there's a really great video on the internet of Richard Hammond. You might have heard of him. He's on British Top Gear, he used to be. Getting into a car, being struck by lightning. Huge electric fields, way bigger than the ones you get from an EMP, like 800,000 volts, crazy amounts. And it's not the rubber that protects you. Lightning and these electric fields, they can travel through air. They can break down the air. Rubber's not going to stop it. The thing that protects you is the metal box. It conducts it out, around the outside, and it keeps it away from whatever's inside. It means there's no or negligible electric field inside if you've got a really good Faraday cage. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Well, no, I'm not exactly sure. Now, see this. Now we're going to go outside of my area of expertise, and we're going to hit your area of expertise. So please don't roll your eyes at me when I say something stupid. But I'm not exactly sure that's a fair comparison, because
no, it isn't. I'm oversimplifying it. I understand. I am oversimplifying it. I'm by no means an expert on the topic.
Well, when it comes to the tires, you see, you mentioned this. The tires don't protect you because you gave this example of a lightning bolt. Now, a lightning bolt, that's powerful enough to send you back to the future. That's an awful lot of electricity. An EMP is not a lightning bolt. Everything is conductive. There's no such thing as something that is not conductive. Even
100% right.
Even purified water it can conduct electricity. A lot of people think that water is you stand in a puddle of water and you touch an electric wire, you're going to get a really big shock because of the water. It's not because of the water. Water is non-conductive. It's the impurities in the water that conducts the electricity. If you were to take a bottle of pure water, spread it on the ground and go stand in it and then touch that proverbial wire, you're not going to get any more of a shock than you would if you'd stood on dry land, because water doesn't conduct electricity. Now, when I say it doesn't conduct electricity, I mean, like I said, and like you just heard Billy agree, given enough electricity, everything is going to conduct electricity. So when you have that proverbial lightning strike on the car, of course the tires are not going to protect you, because that's an awful lot of electricity. That's a fracking lot of electricity. But for an EMP, would rubber tires protect you from that much electricity?
The reason you're getting this electric field is these electrons are coming down at near relativistic speeds, everywhere over a few nanoseconds. It's all very quick. And so they give off this electric field, and the electric field is kind of, should I say deflected? It's hard choosing the right words here. The electric field is minimized, if you will, inside of a Faraday cage. Now, physicist, I apologize if I'm getting this wrong. I'm on the spot here and I get nervous when I'm on the spot. But so inside a car, you're in a big metal box, so the electric field is kind of minimized inside. So you could have, say, 100,000 volts on the outside of a car, and you'll have maybe 0 volts, or maybe a couple, because it's not a perfect Faraday cage. The whole point of electricity is you need a potential difference. So maybe at one end you would have 0 volts, and the other end you'd have 100 volts. And if both of them were 100 volts, then you would have no change in potential difference over that, so an electric current wouldn't flow. So if it's all at the same potential difference, then, or if it's all at the same voltage, then there's no potential difference between between the two areas. Or in a circuit, if you had 100 volts and 100 volts on something, then it wouldn't work. If you had this electric field, if you're in a Faraday cage, the electric field will there'll be an electric field outside of the Faraday cage, but there won't be an electric field inside the Faraday cage, if you get what I mean. For example, if you were wearing a chainmail armor, there's some videos of it online, and you went into a room filled with Tesla coils, there'd be a huge electric field on the outside of the chainmail, but because the chainmail is grounded, and that's an important thing, it's grounded, then the electric current will flow through the chainmail, but you won't have an electric field within the chainmail, or negligible electric field. Look, it's sorry, Tom. Think of answers that to the best of my ability.
Let me.
If we did this in the morning, I might have a better shot at it.
Let me rephrase it a little bit. Assuming the car did not act as a Faraday cage, let's say that the shell of the car is not there, and you only had the tires to protect yourself from the EMP effect. Wouldn't the tires protect?
Oh no chance. No. The lead acid battery should be okay. I reckon the lead acid battery would be okay. But all the circuitry in there, that's kaput. If you've got an old car which doesn't rely on circuitry, then sure, it'll be fine. If there's no circuitry, it'll be fine. But if you got circuitry in there and it's made of carbon fibre and you didn't have a Faraday cage, i.e. lots of metal on the car, big metal box, then no way, Jose.
So the rubber tires don't provide any protection, even though rubber is not. No,
the rubber provides no protection from EMP. None.
Okay, that's all right. Fine. Okay, let's getting back to this. Next question. If someone weighs the same as a duck, are they considered a witch? Yes.
We got that one fact-checked for you guys.
Fact-checked. No, this has been scientifically proven by the highest minds in the land. Let's see. Does China really have malware too subtle to decipher embedded in our infrastructure? You know what? Probably.
Yeah, probably.
It maybe not decipher may not be the best word to use. There's probably spyware or malware all over the place, and they just haven't found it yet because they have different signatures, and they just haven't discovered the signature yet. So there's an article I think we're just about to publish or republish, I should say, about China having infiltrated. I'm actually looking it up right now. That's me kind of pausing. China's cyber army is invading critical U.S. services. That's going to be coming out in a couple of days. And when I say a couple of days, I mean a couple of days from when I'm recording this. When this actually goes out, this is probably actually not going to go out until after Christmas. So who knows, that my article may have already been posted. So yeah, absolutely. Russia's out there, China's out there. Joe Blow hacker. The kid down the street has probably got some malware in there. So yeah, absolutely, it's in there. So that's why we always say you need to be prepared to be on your own in case something happens, like the grid goes down. We don't need a nuclear war for the grid to go down. Just yesterday, or the day before, or was it yesterday, Israeli hackers took down 70% of Iranian gas stations. And they say the 30% was left open as a humanitarian gesture. They could have taken down the whole thing. So if you think that malware is not in the United States, you are really wrong. So yeah, it's definitely in there. So yeah. Okay, let's see. Fine, that's all. What is the real purpose of DEFCON? So like I said earlier, our purpose is the watchman on the wall. Our job is to warn the public of impending nuclear war. That if things are heading in that direction, we will say something, because the government is not going to. And here's the reason why. The United States, in the event of impending nuclear war, people think that they are going to evacuate the cities. The United States is not going to, or they're going to wait until the absolute last minute for that to happen. And the reason for that is the same reason that the United States does not invest in shelters for the public. Because a call to evacuate cities, or a call to the public that nuclear war is imminent, could be read as a sign by the enemy that the United States is gearing up to launch its nuclear weapons. That's kind of a strange way to look at things for the United States to look at a public warning. They're more interested in not sending a signal to the enemy than they are protecting the public. But the philosophy behind that is, if we warn the public and send the signal to the enemy, then that is just another step closer, or another step toward the enemy launching their own nuclear attack. If the United States says, get ready for nuclear war, then Russia could see that as the United States is getting ready to launch their nuclear missiles, so we better launch our nuclear missiles. So that's the philosophy behind it. So if the government's not going to do it, we're going to do it. And that goes back into what a lot of the OS accounts hate us for, because they think we shouldn't be taking that kind of responsibility. They should maybe, but not us. But so that is what the DEFCON warning system is for. We are the watchmen on the wall. We are going to look at and analyze what countries are doing and if they are taking steps toward nuclear war. And we are going to tell the public, hey, there's something going on. You need to look at this. And in our estimation, we are this step closer to nuclear war. And these are the recommendations we are making that you take during this step. Okay, you need to pay attention a little bit more. Okay, maybe you need to start thinking about shelters and supplies. Okay, now maybe you need to start getting your shelter ready. Okay, now you need to start getting in your shelter. We've never gone that far, but that is my philosophy of what the DEFCON warning system is for. Everybody gets into the DEFCON warning system. All staff members join the DEFCON warning system for their own reasons. So, Billy, I'd be very interested in hearing your take on this question.
Oh, why I joined the DEFCON warning system, or about Russian?
What do you believe the real purpose? What do you believe the real purpose of DEFCON is?
To control the sheeple with the 5G Martian ray guns. Some of you may think that. I certainly don't see any ray guns here. But genuinely, what we're here to do is we're here to help people. If we can save at least one life from them being prepared for something to happen, like a nuclear war, or it's not even just nuclear war, it's like hurricanes, tornadoes. If you've got some food and water stocked up, that could be helpful in a handy dandy in a number of scenarios, not just nuclear war. It's like that stuff I said about EMP. If you had a geomagnetic storm, for example, the grid would probably go down, because have governments invested in protecting their infrastructure? Have they? Heck. They've had lovely Senate hearings on it, but nothing so far. Anyway, so having some food stocked up, that would help you, if the power grid went down and, you couldn't charge up your electric car to go to work or something. I don't know. So yeah, we're here to save lives. That's what we're here to do. If we save one life, we've completed our mission. If we save 10, great. That's 10. That's 9 extra ones we saved.
That's a good way to look at that. I like that. Yeah, that is true. That's what we're, even Joe Biden, when it came to COVID, said if we could save one life, with our measures, then they were worth it. So that's kind of what we do. If we could save one life, if we can get one person to be ready for disaster, then we've done our job. It was all worth it. So let's see. What is the purpose of the DEFCON number to change if we are waiting for an imminent nuclear threat before it changes? Does imminent mean we can go to 5 to 1 in mere minutes, hours, days? So I guess this comes down to understanding what imminent means, because we always say, condition is green, there are no imminent nuclear threats at this time. And when you look at the world situation, you got Russia and the United States involved in a proxy war in Ukraine. We have Israel and Iran involved in a proxy war. You have India and Pakistan, always going at it, with little skirmishes. We have China getting ready to invade Taiwan and making their land grab in the South China Sea. So how could we say we're at DEFCON 5 when so much is going on? And so that's why we toss out the word imminent nuclear threat, as opposed to, there's always, nuclear weapons exist. Therefore, there's always going to be a threat of nuclear war. So we have to couch our alerts with terms like imminent, because if we were to say, nuclear war is possible, then yeah, nuclear war is possible simply because of the existence of nuclear weapons. So at what point should you be in your shelter? Should you be in your shelter today? No, I'm not in my shelter. And I'm not saying anyone should be in their shelter, because nuclear war is not going to happen today. Now, some terrorist bobo could get it into his head to light one off, and we're never going to know until that actually happens. Things could happen between governments where it could just spiral down in hours or days. So yeah, nuclear war could happen tomorrow if suddenly Vladimir Putin just goes totally insane and starts being like Howard Hughes and keeping his urine in jars and not clipping his toenails and counting the germs on his face, and he could just be paranoid and launch nuclear weapons. But as a build-up to nuclear war, the different DEFCON levels kind of describe how far away we think nuclear war is. DEFCON 4 means, months down the line. DEFCON 4 is designed to actually last for 2 or 3 months. So if we go to, that's why we say if we go to DEFCON 4, don't really worry about it. DEFCON warning system goes DEFCON 4 and back down to 5 all the time. It's really nothing to worry about. It's just kind of, it's kind of a knee-jerk reaction. DEFCON is a little oversensitive when it comes to DEFCON 4. It's designed to do that. It just means look at things a little bit more closely, pay attention to the news a little bit more, and it really is designed to last for a couple of months. So don't worry about DEFCON 4. So that's what we mean by imminent nuclear war. Not 6 hours from now. It means a couple of months from now or a couple of weeks from now. DEFCON 3 is really, maybe a week, maybe 3 weeks. Back in the 80s, DEFCON 3 lasted for actually a couple of months, I remember. So that was kind of unusual. DEFCON 3 is not meant to last a couple of months. DEFCON 2 is a week, maybe even a week and a half. DEFCON 1 really is 24 hours, 48 hours. And like we said, DEFCON warning system is designed to be a warning system. It's our estimate. It's our guess. So we could literally go to DEFCON 1 and nothing happens because all signs pointed to the missiles are going to fly, and someone got their sanity back and we backed off. So it really is that's what it means. That's what we mean by imminent nuclear threat. Not the general nuclear weapons exist, therefore nuclear war can happen. It really is certain events are occurring that are walking us to nuclear war at this time. These particular events could mean nuclear war as opposed to the general nuclear weapons exist sort of thing. Billy, do you have any thoughts on what your definition of an imminent nuclear threat is?
Yeah, well, some of the people who say we should be at DEFCON 4, there is an argument to be made for that, and I can absolutely see where you're coming from. There are wars going on in the world right now that nuclear powers are involved with. And I could totally understand where you're coming from. But the thing is, this has been going on for a while now. So if we were at DEFCON 4 for the entirety of the Ukraine war for like the past couple of years, then, I mean, that's not really practical, is it? I mean, what's the point in DEFCON 5 then? I mean, there's an argument that for almost the entirety of the 1980s you could have been at DEFCON 4. It's just not practical. I mean, there is such a thing as alert fatigue. I mean, people will get tired and they'll stop listening if you're at high alert all the time. Yeah, and I think it's just a new environment people have to get used to. Yeah.
Well, they do mention the phrase, the new normal. Like you brought up, we could be at DEFCON 4 the entire time of the Ukraine war. So that would leave open the question of where do we go from there? If the next escalation happens, does that bump us up to DEFCON 3? If we're always at 4, then there's no room for a minor uptick in hostilities. We have to go to the next level, DEFCON 3, and so that leaves us with less room to move if we were just sit at DEFCON 4 forever. So that's kind of why we went back down to DEFCON 5, because even though there is this proxy war going on, there's no sign at this time that it's going to bump up to a nuclear conflict. As it stands right now, we see no possibility of nuclear conflict. Something would have to change in the theater for nuclear weapons to start being talked about again. And that's why we're constantly mentioning Crimea. Crimea, Crimea, Crimea. If Crimea comes under threat, then we're going to have to start looking at nuclear war again. Okay, next question. Does the movie Leave the World Behind seem possible? I gotta admit, I've never heard of it. This is one of the questions I had to look up. It's a Netflix movie. I've never saw it, so I have no idea. Bill, have you heard of this?
Oh, I think I've heard something about it. I saw an IMDb review and it wasn't too great, so I was like, well, I can't be bothered to watch it if the reviews aren't great. I think it has something to do with the power grids failing or some kind of coup or so. I don't know. Yeah, I couldn't say anything about it. Sorry. We'll maybe, I don't know. I'm sorry we couldn't answer that one.
Yeah, I don't have Netflix. They don't have anything on there that I really want to watch. I've been wanting to watch Greyhound, but it's on Apple, and I don't have Apple and really don't want to subscribe to it. Maybe I'll sit down and watch it with the free preview. I guess they give you free 30 days. So when there's a bunch of stuff on Apple I want to watch, I'm going to watch Greyhound. It's a Tom Hanks movie about a World War II thing. So yeah, I hear it's supposed to be really good. So, but as far as Leave the World Behind, never heard of it, don't know about it. Sorry. Let's see. Do you really prefer where things are now to having a few mean tweets? So I guess this is referring to, do you prefer having Joe Biden in office as opposed to Donald Trump, who kept things under control, but who didn't know how to control his tweets? Bill, I'm going to pass it on to you first.
Yes, I'm a neutral bystander. I'll be honest. I don't know as much about US politics as I do UK politics. Yes, I suppose you could brand me as more of a liberal person. I'm a member of the Labour Party, so my views are biased here.
You're fired.
But no, no. Well, Joe Biden. Well, he has made some gaffes in the past. You know, there's been questions about his age, and they're legitimate questions. But then again, Donald Trump, you know, his fire and fury tweet for about North Korea. I mean, that's got to bring back some memories, not entirely good ones. You know, he should have been more careful with his tweets. Yeah, I just hope if he wins the next election, and that's a big if. I don't know how it's going to go. I don't think anyone truly does. Then I think he should be more careful about what he says in public, because he needs to understand the huge level of influence a US president has, or even a former US president.
You know, me and my wife used to get into it a lot about Donald Trump. She's a huge Trump supporter. At least she was. I hate the guy. As a person, I really do not like Donald Trump.
Oh no, he said the words.
But as a president, I liked him. I thought he was a very strong president. He certainly projected strength. Other countries were afraid of him. They were afraid of the United States under his presidency. And you know, it is true. The United States did not get involved in any wars, in any new wars under Donald Trump, as opposed to Joe Biden, where we have now Ukraine, we have Israel, we have all sorts of things going on. Joe Biden is a very Cold War kind of guy. He grew up during the Cold War, so he has that same attitude toward the Cold War enemies. He does not like Russia, which is why you saw the response that we had with Ukraine. On the other hand, he is a liberal, so that's why he's been kind of weak when it comes to China. The question is, would China have made its advances toward Taiwan and South China Sea under Donald Trump presidency? Good question. Would Russia have invaded Ukraine under Donald Trump presidency? Don't know. These are all hypotheticals. I'd like to say no, but honestly, I don't know. There's a big difference between Donald Trump's tweets and how he acts in behind the scenes. You know, we see Donald Trump very kind of a boisterous person, whereas Joe Biden projects a very kind of grandfatherly image, although behind the scenes he's kind of a dragon too. I personally, so here's me giving an opinion. I personally see Joe Biden as a weaker president than Donald Trump. That weakness has led to U.S. enemies projecting themselves more, which does lead us closer to a nuclear threat. On the other hand, a Donald Trump presidency could scare other countries into doing something reckless. So, you know, is it 6-1, half a dozen of the other? I kind of think I'd rather have a Donald Trump presidency than a Joe Biden presidency, especially if Joe Biden gets a second term, which he likely would not survive. So we would have a Kamala Harris presidency, which I kind of dread to see. So again, that's my personal opinion on the matter. I did not like Donald Trump's mean tweets. I really recommend that he stay off of social media, but he won't. So a Donald Trump second presidency is going to be entertaining, to say the least. Will he win the election? I don't know. Right now, I think we're going to have two candidates that nobody wants. Nobody wants Joe Biden and nobody wants Donald Trump. So it's going to be a question of who do we want, who don't we want the most? And I think Joe Biden is in a lot of trouble, but the Democrats do have a issue to rally around. They definitely will turn out for the abortion issue, and they will ignore other issues in order to make sure they got more abortions. We saw that in the midterms a couple of years ago in 2000.
This is all very controversial, don't you think?
Well, they asked my opinion, and they're going to get
it. Yeah. Please don't hate us. Don't send us any hate mail, please. I don't want to get involved in U.S. politics.
You know, some people vote single issue, and the abortion is a single issue that does draw out a lot of people. So a lot of Biden supporters are going to come out, and it's not going to matter whether Biden is a good president on other issues. As long as he gives the abortions, they're going to vote for him. You know, it didn't matter that Biden got us high inflation, high gas prices, high housing prices. As long as they got more abortions, they voted for him. So remember, that's just my opinion. That is not the DEFCON warning system position on candidates. The DEFCON warning system has no position on the candidates. We only report on what's going to happen with them in office. The way you vote, DEFCON warning system does not care. That was my opinion.
Nuclear warheads.
Sorry, that's right. That's all we care about. You asked my opinion. This is Ask Me Anything. I gave my personal opinion. So, Billy, I'm going to punt it back to you since I went really political. Bill, go for it. What do you say?
What, politically speaking?
Well, no. I know you gave your opinion on politics, but you saw me go off on a little tangent. And I started giving my deep opinions, my deep controversial opinions. How dare I be controversial? So if you want to be controversial and whip out your Labor Party card, go to it.
Yes, no, I won't whip out the card. It's in the drawer. I might knock over my camera, but nuclear weapons don't care about the colour of our tie. They don't care about the 13 years of Tory neglect. Yeah, sorry, trotting out the party line there.
No, tell me what you feel about what was her name? Margaret Hamilton.
The Tories, the Conservative. Arthur Hamilton. Rishi Sunak.
No, the Prime Minister under Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher.
Well, Margaret Thatcher, she was Britain's first female Prime Minister. She made a lot of reforms, some of which are controversial. I think there's parts where you have to admire. You have to admire her strong stance on the Falklands, but you got to be critical of some of her other policies. Which I don't think we want to get into the nitty-gritty of here. We've already been going on for about an hour and a half.
Your Labour card is now revoked because you did not just wail on Margaret Thatcher. I thought that was a requirement. You just had to absolutely hate Margaret Thatcher.
No, we don't like Margaret Thatcher, no. I think she made a lot of mistakes. There, I said it.
Okay. So next question. Why did we allow Chinese spy balloons over our country being the United States? So there are diplomatic repercussions for shooting down somebody else's property. And that's what I think the United States was thinking about. Obviously, it was a spy balloon. Obviously, they were, spying on the United States. But you just can't shoot it down. There are diplomatic repercussions to that. And so that's why they were mulling it over. What are we going to do about this? Do we really want to shoot it down? China said it was a weather balloon or a science balloon that went off course. Yeah, sure, right. And the Cylons are going to throw me a birthday party. I'm going to get in my Battlestar Galactica references. You can't stop me. So that's why. And you notice when other spy balloons came over, they were a bit quicker to shoot them down because they kind of decided what they were going to do about it. So that's why it took so long. I would have been quicker off the mark on shooting it down, but that's why. So they got the data they wanted, and they with the spy satellites that got up there, they don't really need to send spy balloons unless they're collecting radio waves and stuff like that, which is probably what they were doing. But spy satellites do a pretty good job of collecting data, and China's got a lot of spy stuff in here. So the spy balloon was really kind of old school, really. So that's what that. Do you have anything to say on this? This is kind of a question that was more of a U.S. centric question.
Yeah, well, I think if an aircraft, an unauthorized, unidentified aircraft enters U.S. airspace, then I think they're within their right to shoot it down. I think they were exemplary in their patience with the Chinese.
Yeah. Like I said, I would have shot it down a lot sooner. But they definitely held back until they definitely held back a lot. Okay, let's see. I think we answered this question already, but just in case we want to add anything to it. War is erupting everywhere. Virtually all nuclear arms treaties have been ripped apart, and NATO and Russia are at each other's borders. Explain DEFCON 5. So that goes back to, again, we can't sit at DEFCON 4 all the time, because where do we go from there? We need something out there to where we can say keep an eye on things, but we're not on a death march to DEFCON to nuclear war. So that's why we kind of need a DEFCON 5, so there can be a DEFCON 4. So we kind of really dug into that earlier in the question, but just in case there's something else you wanted to add on that, Bill.
No, I think all that needs to be said has been said.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the Gog-Magog war? So that's I don't know if Billy would recognize that other than maybe hearing those terms. Gog and Magog, that refers to a prophecy in the book of Revelation. Gog refers to the Russian leader, and Magog is Russia itself. I may have those backwards, but one of them refers to Russia or the territory of Russia, and one of them refers to the Russian leader. The Bible has a tendency to do that. It refers to lands and kings or leaders. So that's what Gog and Magog war. And a lot of people have a misunderstanding of that. See, the Gog-Magog war actually takes place later in the prophecies of Revelation. So that isn't World War III. That happens after World War III. If you read the prophecies of the trumpets and the vials in Revelation, I think it's Revelation 7. Don't quote me on that. I don't have the book in front of me. It talks about the trumpet judgments, which talks about the burning of the grass, the destruction of the seas, and a whole lot of destruction. If you read that over, and even if you're not religious, I recommend reading that over simply from a nuclear war standpoint. The descriptions sound an awful lot like nuclear war. And if you read the vial judgments, which some Bible translations will say they're bowl judgments, it talks about sores and poisons and things like that. It sounds an awful lot like the aftermath of nuclear war. So the Gog-Magog war takes place after that. So my thoughts on the Gog-Magog war are not that it refers to nuclear war, but it refers to a prophecy that happens after. It's an attack on Israel after nuclear war. So I don't think Bill has a comment on this because he's...
No, this has just gone over my head, just straight over. I know very little.
Yeah, a lot of people... It's kind of funny. Someone wrote an article criticizing the DEFCON warning system, saying we were a Christian apocalyptic group. And the funny thing is, half the staff are atheists, so we kind of got to laugh at that. So will there be a question? Will there be a DEFCON Telegram chat? What?
It's a type of social media, I think.
What?
It's a type of social media, popular with Russians.
We are on Telegram. We do have a Telegram account. We put little things on there, but I didn't even know there was a chat to that. Is there?
I don't know. I don't use it.
Okay, yeah. I'm not even sure. Is Telegram even do people still use Telegram? Is it popular? We do use it, but I don't know the user base.
I'm pretty sure it's popular in Eastern Europe. Don't quote me on that.
Right? Maybe I should look it up. I mean, we used it, and then we stopped using it, and then we started using it again. So we are still using it. So we are on Telegram. I don't know what we're called off the top of my head. So, and the last question: what can wash away my sins? Well, Jesus said, no historian claims that Jesus did not exist. So it's not a question of Jesus existing, but what are you going to do about his existence? Jesus said he is the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through him. That's very exclusive. A lot of people say that there are many ways to God. Jesus said he is the only way. And John said that he who believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. You know, we all have sins. We all fall short of the glory of God. And Jesus paid the price for our sins. All you have to do is just believe in him and make him your Lord, and your sins will be washed away, because God said, come, let us reason together. I will put your sins away as far as the east is from the west, and I will remember your sins no more. So why are we so worried about our sins if God will remember them no more? So what can wash away our sins? The blood of Christ. So I know that was another religious question. It is an ask me anything question, and I know, you know, Billy, he's one of our, can I say this? I'll cut this out if you don't want me to say this. But he's one of our atheist staff members. So this question, I don't know if he has anything to add to it other than, you know, maybe he can give a perspective from somebody who doesn't believe.
No, I am atheist, but I think it's kind of, I don't want to say jealous, but I'm really happy for people who've got religion, because they believe something, they believe in something bigger than themselves. We all need something to believe in, and that's just a human nature. So people who found religion, you know, good for them. You know, got a lot of respect for them. Some people find religion, some people find science, and that's their religion. And hey, whatever works.
That works. Cool deal. Okay, that is all the questions we had for the DEFCON Warning System Digest. My clock says this went on for 1 hour and 24 minutes. How it comes down in editing, I'll edit out our mistakes and things like that. But I really do enjoy these Ask Me Anythings. They're kind of fun, especially when we get kind of some of the off the wall questions, like, you know, what's the velocity of the stalling, or whatever that one, or
Swallow.
The swallow, the unladen swallow. I gotta admit, that's the Monty Python one I never actually saw. That's from a movie.
You haven't seen the Holy Grail?
I have not seen Holy Grail. I've seen
Blasphemer.
Yeah, I've seen some parts of it, but I have not sat down and watched the entire movie. I have seen what was it? Another one? I have seen Meaning of Life. No, it's Life of Brian. I have seen Holy Grail. I saw a long time ago. It's Life of Brian that I haven't seen. That's the one that I saw. But I didn't remember the swallow one. But I have seen all of Monty Python's Flying Circus. I'm getting lots of email. I know. I've seen The Fish Dance. I know. I know what to do if my parrot is asleep on the floor after a prolonged squawk.
No, Life of Brian is the one the church doesn't like.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. That movie is somebody they mistake as the Messiah, right?
Yeah, and the real Jesus is in there, and it's like the Sermon on the Mount, and like Brian goes to it, and then they all suddenly start following Brian. It's kind of funny. Yeah,
I will sit down. One day I'm going to sit down and watch that, just because I do like Monty Python, and I understand they are a bit irreverent, and you know, sometimes it is funny. That does sound like a movie I want to watch. So anyway, I love doing these Ask Me Anythings. We will do another one next year. Feel free to ask us our questions. Feel free to ask us some weird questions. I will do my best to answer them, and hopefully we'll get more staff members to do it too. Because Bill, I hope you had a good time doing this.
I did. I loved it.
All right, so I'm gonna end this now. Merry Christmas to everyone, or probably more likely, Happy After Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone. We'll see you again. Please visit us at the DEFCON Warning System, the community forum. You can ask us anything there. We're more than happy to answer your questions. I am Tom Lonely Wolf, and you are Billy Auger.
Thank you, and goodbye.
Thank you for joining us for the DEFCON Warning System Digest.